Most of us know what being enmeshed is all about, but is there such a thing as enmeshment trauma? Let's explore this on today's Ask a Shrink. So the quick answer is yes, there is such a thing as enmeshment trauma. It's when we get so tangled up in being involved and intermingled with somebody else's life and their needs. We notice we just can't control, in a way, our emotional involvement with another person. We feel sucked into a vacuum. One's very identity is wrapped up in being enmeshed with this other person or people. Additionally, we feel this exaggerated sense of responsibility for somebody else. We probably feel some guilt or some anxious feeling about being wrapped up with this person, waiting to see how things turn out. We're more concerned about how somebody else is experiencing something than ourselves. And we really can't be too happy if the other person isn't happy. You're basing your happiness on how somebody else is dealing with something, what they're going through. And there's a fear about having any sort of conflict with this person or group of people. Well, all of these examples I just mentioned is what enmeshment trauma is all about. Now, how we're raised by our parents, what's role modeled for us, or how we're conditioned by our parents is what gets this all going. It's learned, it's heavily conditioned from childhood usually. When parents are like helicopter parents, they're trying to control everything, watch everything, not letting their own child find their own wings. They're perhaps emotionally smothering them. They want their child to be their best friend because after all, they need them for their emotional support, so they think. And there's very few healthy boundaries between the parents to the child, perhaps very little privacy. And this can spread into either emotional or physical aspects of the relationship. When this is set in motion by the parents and perhaps involves all the children and extended family members as well, and of course this can also be related to cultural backgrounds as well, then we have the setup for enmeshment trauma. Some people may not think that being too close is a bad thing. In fact, sometimes on some of my other videos, I'll get comments like, well, that's just the way it was. It's a healthy thing. It's the way the parents are expressing their love. But no, there's a fine line with all of this, like there is in everything in life. It's called moderation. There is indeed such a thing as being too close. It's very toxic. It can rip away a child's identity development. Sometimes in my private practice, I work with patients who are suicidal, who have suicidal ideation due to being taken over in this way. Enmeshment is some serious toxic shit. Let's just look at one example of the ones I mentioned. Let's say being afraid of conflict. Let's see how that can impact a child's life. Part of growing up and feeling safe at home is that you can disagree with your parents. The child begins to realize I can still be loved even though I don't always easily go along with what they want. I have my say-so too. Now the parent may still win the battle, but the child at least feels heard. They got to express themselves. The parent actually wanted to hear what the child had to say. So if it's not safe for them to talk to their parents in this way, be honest, show a range of feelings, then of course as they get older, they're going to project this on everybody. It's not safe for me to be myself, to have an opinion, to disagree with this person, because it wasn't safe for them to do it with the very people they should have been able to do it with, their own parents, because this is them exploring their identity. It's a healthy stage. So when conflict isn't allowed, when the kid is told to shut up and just go to your room, or I don't want to hear it anyhow, then of course the child is learning, oh, can't disagree here. It's also called walking on eggshells. And just this one example can impact one's whole life. Also now the adult child will probably seek out some sort of caregiver role, and that's because of being raised heavily enmeshed at home in the primary family dynamics. Enmeshment is all about taking responsibility for someone else's feelings. Well, if you're trying to do that as an adult, that makes you become a caregiver. So of course, to work with this as an adult, you have to begin creating healthy boundaries with the responsible family members. Start there. This may seem uncomfortable at first because you're breaking out of your old role, but in reality, you're taking off the shackles that have been on you your whole life. If you don't begin setting up healthy boundaries at some point, you're going to just keep repeating the pattern. And of course, then you're perpetuating the cycle. The cycle just goes on and on. And if you have children, you may very well be doing this with your child because you're letting yourself succumb to the toxicity of how you were raised. We have to break out of that. We have to challenge ourselves. The reward, of course, is finding our own identity, feeling good about ourselves. We've probably dealt with low self-esteem our whole life. And now we're raising our self-esteem because we're finding our voice. If it's difficult to know who you really are without somehow including your partner or spouse, your job role, your best friend, or some sort of family dynamic into who you are, if you can't unthread yourself out of that and just be with who you are or have a sense of who you are, then that's a big red flag for you to begin working on this. I did a posting earlier today on my YouTube community page, and it lists 10 steps to healthy boundaries. Let me read those real quickly right now. Step number 1, clearly identify your boundary. Number 2, understand why you need the boundary. Number 3, be straightforward. Number 4, don't apologize or give long explanations. Number 5, use a calm and polite tone as you're doing this. Number 6, start with tighter boundaries and then loosen up if appropriate. Number 7, address boundary violations early on. Number 8, don't make it personal. Number 9, use a support system. And number 10, trust your intuition. So boundaries are going to be your new best friend. Write down those 10 steps if you need to help you get going with all of this. Please let me know any thoughts or comments you have in the comment section below about boundaries in your life or being enmeshed. Are you aware of having trauma, enmeshment trauma in your life? Please subscribe to my mental health YouTube channel if you like these kind of videos. And until next week, this is Brad Shore signing off from Ask a Shrink.